Hello, welcome to Her Journey Home. I'm your host, Sophia Noel Graniella. My mission here is simple: to hold space for honest stories and conversations that are usually left unsaid. This podcast is for the women in seasons of becoming, rebuilding their lives, reclaiming their voice, and remembering who they were before the world told them who to be. So come as you are, and let's begin the journey home together. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we are going to have an incredible podcast episode. It will be me and Laurel. And my name is Sophia. I am a self-expression and podcast guide, and I actually help women launch podcasts that they don't quit after 3 episodes and unlock their unique authentic self-expression, unmuting their magic, as I like to call it. And I'm also an EFT tapping practitioner. But for most of my life, I silenced my voice. I did not feel safe being me. I was always the too much, too loud, too passionate, too intense woman. And as a little girl, I struggled with feeling safe to be me. I had a difficult relationship with my father growing up, and I grew up in a family where there was a lot of alcoholism and substance abuse present. And in elementary school, I was bullied. And because of all of these situations, I learned that it was not safe to just be me, to take up space and to show the parts of myself that I ended up hiding from the world for most of my life. And basically, the last couple of years, I've been on a beautiful self-discovery journey of sobriety and coming home to myself and using my voice and expressing the parts of myself that never got to take up space. And it is my absolute mission on planet Earth to help other women really come home to their unique self-expression. And I have really done that through podcasting and through having this platform where I get to be vulnerable and I get to share the depths of my soul and I get to bring parts of myself online that never were able to be witnessed. And it's a really, really special experience. And I'm so honored to be on this journey. And in today's episode, we are going to be asking each other questions to learn about how we have really unlocked our own voices and how we have gone from silencing parts of ourselves to taking up space and creating these podcasts and platforms because it's been such a beautiful journey. So Laurel, welcome and tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey to expressing and coming home to your voice.
Yes, yes. Oh, thank you, Sophia. So my name is Laurel LeMohn. I live in Washington State, from California, and I knew when I was 9 years old that I wanted to be a therapist. I knew from a very young age that I had a special gift and that I was a naturally born healer. And my life has not been easy. But my North Star, my beacon of hope, was continuing my life work in providing this space in being a naturally born healer. And so much of what I've learned in my own life and my own experience is coming into my work. It was not learned in a textbook. It was not taught sitting at a desk, right? It's life experience. It's the heartbreak, it's the struggles, it's the falling down and getting back up. And I'm currently a integrative trauma therapist, as you said, remote in Washington and in California. I also opened a coaching business, Soul Body Wellness, last year, um, after a loved one overdosed. And I came home to find them unconscious. Within 40 minutes, they had 3 seizures. Um, and I didn't know that they would, I didn't know if they'd survive. Um, I knew at that point that talk therapy wasn't going to help me, that I needed to heal on a somatic level. And so that pushed me into creating my coaching business, getting trained in breath work and intuitive movement for trauma healing. And in addition to that, also understanding the importance of community and coming together as one. That in so much of my own personal experience and in my work, I've noticed again and again how many people are suffering alone in silence. And so I created Soul Body Wellness with the desire of bringing people back into community, imagining people sitting around a bonfire, sharing stories, playing music, um, understanding that there's nothing wrong with any of us. That is all bogus. And that this is all part of the human experience. And so what came to life after that was then creating my podcast, Spiritual Friction, where I interview people all over the world and talk about moments of transformation. They talk about what it feels like to be suicidal, what it feels like to feel invisible, to be addicted to drugs and alcohol and not know what to do for help. The desire and the invitation of speak to your past self. What would you have wanted her to hear? If you think of little Sophia, a little child at home, right, being bullied in school, not having support, not feeling safe at home, what would you tell her today? And know that there is someone somewhere who is listening, who needs your words, no one else's. They need your story. And so the opportunity to speak to little Sophia while providing that support and that community for others where they can relate and they can come back and have that aha moment of, oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone. And look at what Sophia did. Look at
Mhm.
the beautiful work that she's created, not despite, but because of that, right? What was that experience like to come home to yourself?
Oh, so beautiful, Laurel. Oh my goodness. I'm like, where do I even begin? Oh, so beautiful. So, the first thing I would say is so many people suffer in silence, which is why podcasting and having a platform and sharing your voice is so important and so necessary. But also, all of the challenges that you've ever gone through, all of the difficult moments, all of the rock bottoms, all of the times in your life that you thought to yourself, I will never make it through this, are actually the moments that become the catalysts for your growth and for the most incredible life. But oftentimes, when we're going through the struggle and we're in the thick of it, we're in the mud, we can't see on the other side. We don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it just feels like we're never going to get to the other side. But again, really, like the lesson I've learned through all of this is like, turn your pain into your power and purpose and use it to shine your light so bright and to inspire other people around the world to do the same. Because we're all, like you said in the beginning, like we're all experiencing this humanness, right? We're all on planet Earth to serve and to make it a beautiful place. And when we can take all of our past pains and struggles and challenges and put them into something that can change someone else's life, like that is what this is all about. So I would love to know from you too, Laura, like where in your life can you look back and be like, wow, like those moments allowed me to serve my mission and they have allowed me to come back to my voice. And I know you mentioned before one of those situations and experiences, but I'm curious, like, give us more of the parts of your journey that have made you who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel I see so many similarities in our story, and yet we're on two very different opposite sides of the continuum. Because for me, my core belief was that I was not worthy. And in feeling and believing that I was not worthy, I kept myself small, right? I kept myself repressed. I didn't share my voice. And I made myself as small as possible, thinking, one, I am not worthy. And second, I am here to serve others. And the codependency of that and the pain got me in really dangerous situations, and in abusive relationships. And I had a therapist who told me once, that he thought I was codependent. And when he first told me, I absolutely just refused. I rebutted and said, absolutely not. And it didn't take till several years later when I realized, okay, maybe there is some truth here. Maybe I really am. And understanding that to get out of that boat, right, to continue to stop helping other people would, one, it would benefit me, and second, it would actually help the other person and it provide them the opportunity to live their life and me not jump into rescuing. So I was raped when I was in high school and I didn't understand that it was rape for many years because I knew the person until I was in college where I was taking a class and understood that there were multiple versions, right? And it could indeed be with someone that I knew. And so keeping that bottled up, um, the release of understanding that was freeing. And I ended up gaining 80 pounds. And being at my heaviest was 200 pounds because I wanted to be invisible. It's not logical. I took up more space, wanting to be invisible. But I thought that to protect myself, if I found myself unattractive, then everyone else would as well. And that was my defense. At my heaviest, when I was 200 pounds, I was taking 10 daily medications. I was hospitalized twice with anxiety. I admitted myself voluntarily into a psych ward, and it was a psych ward. All of my belongings were taken away from me. I was wrapped in what I can only call as a paper towel, for clothing, slept with the lights on, took the curtains off the shower. Um, they refused to give me my diabetic medication, and so my sugars went to above 500. I could have easily been in a coma. Um, and I came home and I looked myself in the mirror and I did not recognize myself. And looking at back at pictures now, I had lines down my face. My skin was discolored. I was incredibly unhealthy. And I asked my ex-husband at the time to take a picture of me because I would never look that way again, right? Like you said, like I scared myself looking in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. And looking back now, I think that was the first time when I really wanted to share my voice and I wanted to build these communities and these conversations because I took those pictures and I went on Facebook and I started sharing my story. And I would take pictures every 3 months as I lost weight and talk about my experience. And I had people coming to me asking me to silence, asking me to stop telling my story. I had one person who I applied to for a job, and before she gave me her decision, I ended up getting the job, but she took me to lunch and she said, because of your story, I am afraid to hire you. I think that you are a liability to this company. And the fact that so many of us have similar stories, can relate in their own experience to what I went through, but don't talk about it publicly, don't share it openly, right? And so here I am trying to provide a conversation, provide a space, and I am being hushed. I am saying that I am a liability. And so I stopped sharing my story. Right? I have some pictures that are still on Facebook, but I took a lot of it down. And so there's incredible vulnerability and strength and bravery coming forward and telling our stories. And for me, I mean, I love these conversations, this depth, this curiosity. And I still get anxious. I still feel anxious coming into it because it's vulnerable, right? It's scary. And yet it is so important. And these are the moments where we can start to normalize these feelings. Yes, I also have anxiety. Yes, I also have depression. Yes, this has been my story. This has been my experience, right? And I'm at the point now where I welcome those feelings. They're my friends. It's no longer exile from my experience or my understanding of life, right?
Mm.
And so sharing that and providing those moments and saying, no, I am worthy. And it has taken me over 30 years to actually understand that because there were so many times in my childhood where I felt silenced, where I was also told, you're too much, you're too emotional, stop pouting. No, I'm not going to stop pouting. I'm not going to stop being emotional. Those are parts of me.
Oh my gosh. So much I want to say. Thank you for being so vulnerable, first and foremost. And like you said, I still feel feelings sometimes where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to share this. It feels a little stretchy and uncomfortable. But that's part of the human experience again. And also, emotions are our biggest teachers. And I think it's really about getting extremely good at feeling and being with our emotions and not needing to make them mean anything or mean anything about us as humans. And you said something that was just like, yes, it's we are worthy, period. End of story. Like, as walking, breathing humans on planet Earth, we are worthy. And I also had a very deep worthiness wound my entire life. I always felt not enough. And as I have been on my sobriety journey, I've just realized, wait a minute, we are worthy of every single thing we desire. We are worthy of taking up space. We are worthy of using our voice. And I'm such a big believer now that I'm at this stage in my life is if we don't use our voice, it's selfish. Because at the end of the day, there is someone out there. Think about the past versions of us, right? Like the Laurel 5, 10 years ago, who is desperately waiting and hoping and praying for someone like us to share their light, to share their message. And of course, I say that, but also you want to get to a space where you're ready to share. And I'm not saying like if you're not at that stage yet and you're still very deep in the healing, you don't have to push yourself to share, right? Like you will know when you're ready and something needs to be expressed. Because I always say this too, but you want to share from the scar, not the wound. And so oftentimes I try to share things once I've integrated them, once I've actually taken that lesson and that wisdom and applied it to my own life. And not to say that you can't share during the journey, but there's a lot of pieces of my story that wouldn't have landed the same way had I shared it while I was like deep in the middle of it. And so, with all of that being said, yes, it is selfish not to share your message and help other people, but also trust yourself and know that you will find the time when you are ready to express and when you have done a lot of the work and you're like, you know what? I know I have something that is worth sharing. I know that I am ready to take up more space. And it's a gradual journey that we're on, right? Like we're always on this beautiful journey of getting closer and closer to the people that we were as little kids. And I saw something the other day that really, I think you'll love this, but it was like, your higher self is your inner child. I always think back to that and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's always this evolution of getting back to those little girls that deserve all the love and all the just everything that she wants. Like she's deserving and worthy of it. And so for anyone listening to this episode, just know that you will get to a place where you will feel ready to use your voice. And please do, because not only will you help to illuminate something in someone else and you will instill hope in that person, but you will also start to liberate so much shame that you've been carrying because shame grows in isolation. And when you are able to put a voice to that shame and you are able to express and you were able to take up more space, not only will you help heal others, but you will heal yourself on such a deep level. That is what I've experienced through podcasting. So I'm curious, Laurel, like what has that experience been like for you? Like now sharing parts of your soul and being so vulnerable, like what has changed for you since you've started expressing and sharing?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, Sophia. I'm finding my tribe. I'm finding my community, right? I'm stepping into my light so that others can find me, right? So it's not only a gift to myself to no longer be hiding, but it's a gift to others of she gets me. She understands. Um, I opened my private practice, West Coast Psychotherapy, on the 1st, so just last week. And I've been working tirelessly since November in creating my informed consent for my clients. It ended up being over 60 pages long and talking about my story, what I bring to my practice, what I bring to my clients. And I spent time with each client doing a deep dive into what differentiates me from traditional talk therapy. Why am I choosing to stay in this career and what services can I provide? Every client ended up crying. And the common message was, you see me. And so the beauty and the bravery of telling little Lori, because that was my name when I was a kid, telling little Lori, you're safe now. You don't have to hide anymore. There are people who get you and who want you around, who want to work with you. And then for them to be knowing that they can show up and they can be authentic, right? And I can see when I look at your face, Sophia, that you feel that. You get what I'm saying and the freedom of that, right? And I'm curious, what is coming up for you as I'm saying this? Because there's so much emotion there.
Ooh, I have full body chills right now, truly. Like you said that, and I was like, wow, I see myself in that so deeply. And the finding your tribe, right? And finding people that actually finally, for the first time, see your worth because you see your worth, right? It's a reflection of how we see and view ourselves. And when we come back to ourselves and we cultivate such a deep level of self trust and self worth and self love, all of a sudden our community and the people around us start to reflect that to us. Oh, wait a minute. The people around me love when I'm too much. The people love my passion. The people love my intensity because that's what makes me me. And I no longer need to dim down or hide those parts of me because little Sophia was a lot. And she was loud and she wanted to take up space. And she was so intelligent and creative and entrepreneurial. And that's who I want to be again. And it's just been the most beautiful homecoming of like, oh my gosh, there are people that will love you for exactly who you are. But it really took me loving all those parts of myself first for that to be reflected to me in my own life. And so everything you've said is like, wow, people finally see me for me. And I no longer have to hide parts of myself to be loved. And if I ever feel like I don't feel safe or in someone's presence, then that's not my person and that's okay. But I have the awareness now to walk away and to respect and love myself enough to say, you know what, that doesn't serve me. But the people that I've been attracting into my life, whether it's people online, clients, friends, partners, it's so different than it was 5 years ago, like night and day different, because I have cultivated such a deep level of self respect and I trust myself and I love myself. And don't get me wrong, I'm still on a journey, right? There's days where we're still loving up on these parts and we're still having conversations with our inner children and all of it. But it really is, like you said, it's all of a sudden, wow, things are starting to click and people see me for me and I get to take up space. And even in my business, it's been a really amazing transformation in business. People always say, like, it's the biggest personal development journey you will ever go on. And it's true because I started out my business being a sober, curious coach. And I did that for a little, but there was always something missing. And little by little, especially after I launched my podcast and I started showing up week after week, using my voice, expressing parts of myself, sharing so vulnerably parts of my story that I had never shared before. And all of a sudden, there was just a day where everything just like was a full body conviction and this confidence. And just this knowing of like, oh my gosh, I love who I am and I love who I'm becoming and stepping into. And I realized that podcasting was the love of my life. Like it's healed me on a level that I can't even begin to explain. And I thought to myself, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. I am meant to take up more space. I'm meant to be loud. I'm meant to be passionate and intense. And I'm meant to help women step into their authentic self expression through podcasting. And it was just like this light bulb moment and this aha of everything just clicked all of a sudden. And I was like, every single part of my life has led me up until this moment. And I had lots of imposter syndrome. There was lots of fear that came up because my life was asking me to really step into this leadership role and claim this lane of like, this is what I do and this is how I can help you. And the moment I did that, everything just started shifting in my world. But it took me so many years, so much self doubt, so much comparison, so much inner critic and self judgment and hatred and shame. But I had to experience those feelings. I had to go through those experiences to get to where I am today. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know what it was like to be silenced. I wouldn't have known what it was like to carry shame. I wouldn't have known what it was like to feel like I wasn't enough and to feel like I didn't belong. But by showing up week after week and expressing and using my voice, like everything started to change in my life. So that was a very long tangent of what you said earlier, but oh my gosh, like to be seen by people for who you truly are is the most liberating feeling in the entire world.
And I can see that as you talk, right? That expansiveness is just so
Yeah,
open and just wanting it, right? Right. Being here in the present, being in the moment, and just saying, yes, like this is me. I'm Sophia, and take it or leave it, but I'm going to shine my light.
absolutely. And that's the beauty of this life. Like we get to shine our light so bright. Oh,
And I'm curious, what was, so in my podcast, Spiritual Friction, that really came as an intuitive download, walking at the park one day of this name. And of course, for me, my experience last year, that was my, moment of friction, right? Where everything changed. And I'm curious for you, what was it? Um, was there a moment or were there little moments that really transformed your podcast and brought that moment of clarity of this is the time and I am going to share my voice and I am going to be loud about it and I am here to stay, right? Like what was that for you that just said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm gonna go over here now.
yeah, that's such a great question. So I started sharing my journey on Instagram when I had gotten sober. And I remember being so terrified posting my first face to camera video because I was sharing my story. And it was for another business that I had started before the one that I have now. And I remember like my hands were sweating and I felt like I was going to throw up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if I'm ready to be seen in this way. Because a lot of the people that followed me were people from high school and friends. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are they going to think? And I just remember thinking to myself, no, I have to share this because I know that someone else needs to hear this message. And I pressed post and it got the most engagement out of any of my videos. It did the best, of course, because it's vulnerable. And so many other people connect to the vulnerable stories. I think oftentimes we have this idea that if we're too vulnerable, then we're not going to be seen as like an authority or an expert or someone that knows what they're talking about. And it's the complete opposite. I'm like, no, the more vulnerable you are, the deeper connections you make and the better community you build because people will trust you and you're human. So I remember I posted that and then I continued on the Instagram journey posting content. And then I actually had started a podcast with a friend prior to my podcast. And we both started the podcast and we both fell in love with it. We were both really good at it and we had amazing conversations and we did it probably for about 3 to 4 months. But I was heavily in this self-discovery journey at the time. I was sober and I was evolving at a very rapid pace. And so things in my life were just changing very, very quickly. And I remember I was sitting in my Miami apartment and all of a sudden, like full body, I had chills. It was raining outside. Like I remember the exact moment this happened. And I heard my higher self say, Sophia, you need to start a podcast now by yourself. You need to share more of your story. You need to share the depths of your soul. Like Instagram is not going to cut it for you. You're multidimensional. You have layers, you have perspectives. You've traveled to 26 countries. Like you have so many stories to share. You need to do this like immediately. And I remember at that time, I was terrified to have a conversation with my friend because we were on this journey together. And I did feel this like guilt and this shame of like, oh my gosh, I have to tell her that I no longer want to do this with her. And I was terrified, but I did the thing that I needed to do, which was sit down and have a conversation. And I just said, look, this is what's coming through for me. And I need to really honor this because it was so loud and clear that I need to start a podcast. And my podcast will be different than our podcast. It's not going to be like a copy, but I know that there's so much on my heart that I need to share that has to be done by myself. And I have to honor this. And she understood, and we talked about it, and she respected it. And within a couple weeks, I launched Her Journey Home. And I remember it was just, I was meditating because I couldn't figure out the name of the podcast. But oftentimes when we try to figure it out, it doesn't come to us, right? Because we're searching and we're searching. Meanwhile, all the answers are already within us. And so I remember like searching, figuring it out. And I was like, Sophia, relax, release, and just trust that the perfect name is going to land. And I remember sitting down for meditation and I closed my eyes and I was just sitting there. My mind was loud. And then all of a sudden I started connecting. And all of a sudden I just started bawling my eyes out. And it was like Her Journey Home. Like you've been on a journey back to yourself. Like that's been your entire life has been this journey home to yourself. And it was like Her Journey Home. And immediately it was like full body chills, tears running down my face. And I was like, Her Journey Home, that's it. And from that point on, I was so, something shifted in that moment because it was like I had never gotten such clear guidance from my guides and my angels and my higher source and my higher self. And it was just like, holy cow, this is my entire life's work coming together. And I just knew that it was what I was meant to do. And so then I started podcasting, and the first couple episodes were really challenging and they stretched me because I shared again more and more. But as I continued showing up messy and perfect before I was ready, I just remember there were so many moments that I would just stop and be like, "Oh, I do know more than I allow myself to believe. I can articulate this. I am worthy of sharing my story. I actually have been on such an incredible journey that I get to share with the world." Because before podcasting, I had a lot of self doubt, a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of comparison, a lot of like, my story's not that important, or who would even listen to this. But because I showed up week after week, it was just like this full body knowing and conviction of like, no, I get to share this and someone needs to hear this. And even if just one person listens to my episode, I know I've done my job. But now my mission has grown so much bigger than myself. And I'm a year and a couple months into my podcast. And it's just like, it has been the biggest personal development journey and homecoming to my voice. And now I get to help women do the same thing. And I think it's just such a beautiful how everything in my life has connected back to what I do now. So that's how I got into podcasting. It was just like a full body knowing of like 90-second reels and carousels feel so constricting. They do not cut it. I hate being in a box. I have so much more I want to share. I can talk for days. As you can see, I'm a big yapper, and just it was so in alignment. And now I see why I had to go through everything I did to get here. I'm curious about your journey too, Laurel. Like, what was your journey when you finally decided, like, no, I need to share my story with the world on a deeper level?
I feel that I'm still kind of doing that, right? It's natural for me to be that therapist, right? To be the one asking the questions. And then during episodes, I'll insert certain areas of my own life and develop that understanding, that shared language, right? But there is still a lot of vulnerability, and I think I'm still going through that process you were talking about, right? That unfolding, that vulnerability, that here I am, and I don't know if it'll be accepted, but I'm going to do it anyways. And the messiness of that, and the beauty and the, just the real depth and the curiosity that it brings. I have so many stories to tell, so much to give. Continuously have people say I should write a book and I should share my story and I should do all of this. And I think I'm building that foundation. I'm still building that language and that stability within myself. A big part of me is my spirituality, is knowing that I'm an old soul, having past life regressions, communications with those from beyond, having dreams, having all of this. And for me, I'm in that transformation stage where I knew very young in life that I had these gifts and that part of being a therapist was being this naturally born healer. And as I've transformed and just my human experience has shifted, the therapist was the language that I clung to. That was what I understood. The depth of that and in creating my practice is so much more than that. And I remember when I was younger, really knowing that I wasn't ready to tune into that, that I still needed a solid foundation within myself. I still needed a lot of growth. And so I remember being younger and folding laundry and putting my hands up and saying, no, I can't hear this anymore. I cannot listen to this. Um, and really feeling the sense of fear of power, of I have these abilities and I don't know how to anchor them. I'm not ready for this. And so in the last few years, I've come to a point of stability of I am ready. I am prepared. I can do this. And not only that, but building my language, right? Building my informed consent, creating that space so that others can join me in that space. And so for me, my podcast has really been in creating that space where I can naturally show up and provide that space for others, and then have those moments of clarity and those moments of aha where I can integrate me too. This is what happened over here. And look at our stories, look at our similarities, look at our differences, look at the beauty and the messiness and the all of it of life, right? And we can join each other in that space. And so for me to sit down and write my book, to share my story, it's coming out in bits and pieces. It's coming out in time. I know that there's a book brewing. I know that that story is worth sharing and that it's going to be told, and that I'm building the foundation and the anchors to do that so that I can show up authentically and with integrity and with permission, right? Both for myself and for others of I've done this, back to what you were saying. I've done this deep work. I've come to this point of healing that now it is medicine for others. I am healing simultaneously while I'm providing that space for others. And isn't that beautiful?
Oh my gosh, that is so incredible. I always tell people, but you have to consistently put yourself in these uncomfortable situations where you're stretching yourself and you're doing something that may not come naturally, that may be like a little bit like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to be seen in this way, or I have to interview and ask questions. But every single time you do that and you show up and you put yourself out there, you're proving to yourself that you are capable, and you're building that muscle of self trust every single time you show up. And also getting to build a beautiful community and find your people, like you said, finding your tribe and just sharing the parts of yourself. And I hope you write a book, because that would be such an incredible book. I would love to read it. But what an incredible conversation this has been, Laurel. My goodness. I always like to end every episode, and I want to do this today because I think it's really fun. But what is one powerful message that you want every single listener to walk away with?
I think it really comes back to this conversation and that you are worthy. There's nothing else to do, that you are loved, you are accepted. And I am so thankful that you're here with me and that you're listening to this conversation and joining us in this space.
So good. That is such a powerful, powerful message. And it's the truth. It's like when we can understand that, everything else will begin to shift in our realities. And we can begin this journey of loving ourselves and coming home to ourselves and sharing our voice and our powerful message and stories with the world. So, what a beautiful episode.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story and your light with all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laurel. And I'm so excited for everyone to get this in their ears, because it was such an incredible episode.